What's up, everybody? It's Troy Cartwright. Welcome back to the pod. We've had a really big past 2 weeks, and I know that a lot of you guys are new, so I wanted to say welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you want to join the 10-Year Town community, that's where we send out our Q&A questionnaires, talk about live events. You can do so at 10yeartown.com. Thanks. Today's guest is Connor Smith. You know Connor from songs like Creek Will Rise, Take It Slow, and his song I Hate Alabama. In this episode, we talk about Connor's journey from growing up in Nashville to navigating his way through Music Row and starting at a pretty young age. It's a really great and inspiring story. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I know you guys are going to love this episode. So without further ado, here he is, Connor Smith. Dude, thank you for being here.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me. I'm a fan of yours. I'm a fan of the podcast, just kind of what it's doing.
Oh, dude.
In Nashville. So
thanks, man. Yeah, it's fun. I really have enjoyed just kind of getting to I like talking to people, but I think the thing I love most about doing this is just I think what Nashville has, especially the songwriting community, is so unique. Mm-hmm. And so it's fun to I don't know. I feel like it's important to get to show that to more people, just the craft behind what we do and, all the interesting characters that make this town go around.
100%. Well, I mean, for me, I grew up, in Franklin. So
yeah.
15 minutes from here. And my whole thing was I just wanted to be a songwriter.
Yeah.
And because I learned at 6 years old that was a job you could do.
You were around other songwriters.
Yeah, I just remember being in Chick-fil-A and my mom being hey, that guy wrote House That Built Me. So it was Tom Douglas.
Dang.
Or my next door neighbor was Neil Thrasher, who wrote Night Train and There Goes My Life.
Absolutely.
And so I just was around it and I was oh, that's a job you could do.
Yeah.
And so I started doing it at 6. But I say that to say growing up, songwriters were the celebrities to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember being at a concert and Rhett Akins, or Akins, I don't know. Akins. Rhett was there and I remember seeing him and just being more starstruck that Rhett was sitting there than whoever was on stage that night.
Yeah.
And so and then fast forward, sign a publishing deal and then I'm in rooms with those guys. I'm getting to write with Ben Hayslip. I'm getting to, write with Kelly Lovelace or Tom Douglas. Yeah. And so my whole background is I just freaking love songwriters. I think the songwriters are the heartbeat of everything. And they're the heartbeat of this town.
Absolutely.
And super underappreciated.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love about your podcast is like you said, there's got to be a voice to these guys that are the voice of country music.
Yeah. And I think the struggles of songwriters and the current times are well documented.
Sure.
So I don't know, maybe it gives somebody somewhere some more perspective that they wouldn't have, and hopefully that helps all of us out down the road. We'll see what happens. But
yeah, I also think the beauty about the songwriting industry is it is so at its best non-competitive.
Yeah.
In a really cool way.
Absolutely.
My best buddy who, you're close with, Daniel Ross.
Yeah.
Dude just had his first #1 and the joy I felt
seeing
that, the joy, the excitement I felt when that song went to radio for Morgan Wallen, Live. That's kind of universal in this town where everybody wants everybody to succeed and it's such a familial aspect and that is not common. That is a Nashville specific thing in a lot of ways. And it just goes back to the heartbeat of songwriting and of country music as a whole. And I just think that is something to be kept sacred.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's a very special thing. And what you said is 100% true. It's I think, especially once you've been doing this for a while, you just realize it's so hard.
Yeah.
So when your buddy Daniel Ross gets his first #1, it's I remember the first time I wrote with Daniel at like his old house in East Nashville, and like his kid was like literally a baby.
Awesome.
So I don't. How long ago was that now? Is
I
that
think
kid
Austin's 6 right now.
Yeah, so it's 6 years, and Daniel was like one of the best writers I'd written with 6 years ago.
That's the thing about Daniel. Daniel's been like on the cusp of a hit for 6 years and just gotten every bad break.
Right.
And so a guy like that's so talented, so kind, works so hard, you're like, dude, it's at any moment the water's about to finally get over the waterfall.
Yeah.
He gets his first single, and then he's already got the John Party single right now. It's just like that stuff, because what I always tell people, I have people ask me all the time in meet and greets, like, any advice for songwriters?
Yeah.
And my advice is always, it is such a blue collar job.
Yeah.
It is such a, I've seen it, you've seen it. There are so many writers we've written with. The first time we wrote with them years ago, same thing for us, by the way.
Yeah.
They were not good songwriters.
Sure.
But then 5 years later, they just work every day, and they're great songwriters. They're phenomenal, and they're having hits on the radio. And that's the cool thing, is that it's such a, dude, if you just go in the gym every day and lift weights, you're going to get stronger.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing for being a songwriter. Like, hey, if you just keep writing and put your head down and just make the decision not to give up, I promise you will have a #1 song at some point in your life.
If you can hang on.
And if you can get one, you can get 10.
That's right. And it can take a while.
Oh,
but it's okay.
It takes way longer than anybody wants it to. That's the key word here is patience.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's the beauty of the whole thing.
Yeah, I remember when I first came to town, it was like, oh, dude, 2 years,
100%,
3 years, I got it.
Dude, I've been doing this new thing. I just started it this week, where I've started this kind of like blog page for as a fan base thing.
Yeah.
Just kind of write. I kind of want the fans just to feel like they're part of the journey in every way, and just kind of telling my story along the way. And I was writing this morning about when I signed my record deal, and I was 18. I just graduated high school. This was 2019, and I signed to Big Machine. I signed my name on the paper over at the red light building, immediately got in my truck and drove down to the Honda dealership in Franklin and bought a motorcycle. It was just such a big day. And I remember life was so perfect. I just graduated high school. I never had to do homework again. It was my last summer before all my friends went off to college, and now I had a record deal. And then probably, this time next year I'll have a #1. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's my thinking.
Right.
And little did I know, the journey it would take. But I'm also so grateful for that. That's kind of the process of it all.
Absolutely. Well, we've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but I usually start this thing off with asking somebody how long have they been in town, but it sounds like you're from here. So.
Since 2005. So
Gotcha.
I was born in Chattanooga, moved here when I was 5 years old.
Were your parents in the business, or just
no?
In
my
Nashville?
dad works in healthcare, which is
Gotcha.
Music industry is #2 in Nashville, behind healthcare. And then, but my mom was a TV reporter, so she worked at Channel 4 as a just kind of on location reporter. But she loved country music, and so I grew up with Montgomery Gentry, the Judds, playing through the house every weekend.
Yeah.
And so every time there was a #1 party or a red carpet, she would raise her hand. She would get to do the job.
Oh, that's cool.
So I kind of grew up young. I mean, I remember going to Brad Paisley's #1 party for online.
Yeah.
The Mac Authority right off of 65, which is no longer there. I remember going to the Josh Turner Why Don't We Just Dance #1 party, just as a little kid.
Yeah.
In elementary school. And then she actually ended up getting a TV show on Channel 4 called Nashville Music and More.
Okay.
That would play every Sunday. But there she would go long form interviews with Tom Douglas's, with Craig Wiseman.
Oh, very cool.
Go to their house.
Yeah.
Whatever, Tim Collins, whatever the big song was at the time, she would go get the story behind the song.
That's very cool.
So she would bring those home to edit them, and I would sit in her office as she edited those 2-hour interviews with those guys.
Yeah.
Of how they were writing Live Like You Were Dying and the good stuff and all that. And I was just mesmerized by it.
Yeah.
So I started writing songs at 6, and I do laugh about the 10-year town thing, because I started writing songs at 6. I got a publishing deal at 16. So at least it lines up
you
in
had
that
your 10
aspect,
years.
Yeah.
Where was your first publishing deal at?
Tape Room.
Okay.
Yeah, with
Gotcha.
Ashley.
That's
Zach
crazy.
Crow had found me on Instagram singing a video, Cop Car.
Were you just throwing covers up?
Yeah, I mean, I was on the verge of a deal. I almost signed to Warner through Kelly Lovelace, and a thing he was doing when I was 15.
Gotcha.
And that just fell through. I wasn't ready. I mean, it was a year later. Not like I was more ready, but you know, I definitely wasn't ready then. But then a year later, Zach saw the video of me singing Cop Car. I would always tag the writers whenever I'd post something.
Oh, gotcha.
And it was a wild thing because that night that I posted it, I was at dinner with my family, and I was like, you know what, anybody in Nashville I'd love to work with, Zach Crow would be like top of that list.
Yeah.
The next day, dude, I promise you, the next day I get an email, and then 7 days after speaking it, I'm in Zach's studio. We started working together. He signed me to a publishing deal through Tape Room, and that was kind of how it all started.
Yeah, that's awesome. Were you, when you were like writing songs, like you said, you started when you were 6, were you just like, did you start like co-writing also at a young age, or was it
was all just me, man? I just get home every day. I signed to BMI at 9.
Yeah.
So like it was always just like I was going to be a songwriter.
Yeah. But
I would just get home every day, and I'd write until baseball practice. I didn't have my first co-write until I was 15. I just saw her. Elisa Vanderheim was my first co-write ever.
That's great.
And she was newly signed, and
was that when she was over at Major Bob?
Yeah. Major
was it in
Bob.
it was dope room she had? Yeah. That's cool.
It was in that old building they had. And I remember, dude, like my first Music Row write was such a big deal, and just really, really cool. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, that was before publishing deal or anything. That came after, but everything was just writing solo, which awesome. I'm glad I developed that muscle. Yeah,
I think, and I talked when Tom Douglas was on a few weeks ago. We talked about it too. It's like lately I've just been trying to remember that's how I started. And like go back and do it, and I've been having a lot of fun.
It's so fun, man. I've been getting back to it too. This year was like my goal. This year was to write more songs by myself.
Yeah,
and I just put out one that's one of my favorites I've ever written, called "Faith from a Farmer," that we just put out, and it was a solo write.
That's awesome.
But just something about doing it, and just there's a level of pride in it that's really special.
Yeah,
and so yeah, I feel like going forward, I always want to have at least 100% original on every project.
Yeah, I think I've been inspired. Like the last Cody Johnson single was like 100%.
100%, dude. It's such a good song.
I saw I don't know. I feel like Matt Roy's had a couple. He had one on the Riley Green record. I think he had one on the Jake Owen record. I'm like,
dude, I'll tell you, Riley does it all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, Riley wrote Jesus Saves by himself, and then this one he just put out with Ella, Don't Mind If I Do.
Yeah.
Or Don't Mind If You Do. I don't know. Either way.
Yeah.
Song is unbelievable. I was listening to it with my wife in the car, and I was like, who wrote this? And when I saw he wrote that song by himself, I was so stunned. And I told my wife in the car, I was like, listen, that is insane, because I don't know how he did that. Yeah. Like, I know how he wrote Jesus Saves by himself. Not that I could do it. It's an incredibly written song.
Yeah.
But I know the concept that he went into it with. And once you have the full concept, you just fill in all the details really specifically. But I have no idea how he wrote. But a lot of his record is, and I saw him in the gym the other day, and which is not where you want to see Riley Green, right? Kind of makes your workout. I guess it amps you up a little bit more. But
yeah.
And he was saying he'd gotten back to just writing a bunch of 100%ers.
That's awesome. Yeah, dude, he's somehow an underrated writer.
Yeah.
And I feel like for a while, actually, even as an artist, he was kind of underrated. It seems like he's kind of getting his flowers.
He's having this is his flowers moment.
Yeah,
for sure.
But he's been crushing it for a while.
He's one of those guys. He always just knew his lane and just stayed in it, kept driving, and it's paying off.
Yeah, man. I remember he took me out on tour back in, it was 2017 or 2018, playing a bunch of Alabama, stuff like that. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is already, it was already a lot bigger, I think, than people even knew.
Yeah. Riley was, I always use this example. Riley did the Texas thing in Alabama.
100%.
You know, like the Parker McCollum thing, where Parker, by the time he moved to Nashville, was way bigger than anybody in Nashville had any idea of.
Yeah.
Because he had such a Texas fan base where he could sell, 2,000 or 1,500 tickets in the South. He could sell 20,000 in Texas.
Yeah.
And the same thing was Riley. He built that in the Southeast.
Yep.
between Alabama and Georgia, he just tore the heck out of it. So by the time he moved to Nashville, it was already just waiting on him.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. So you sign this publishing deal when you're 16, and then you sign your record deal like basically summer after high school, right?
Yeah.
So did you? I'm guessing you did not go to college, or did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
We did. My first headlining tour was called the If I Went to College tour. So my college experience was once we started putting out songs, I just like found all the places my buddies were in school
And went there.
and I was just like, hey, bring a bunch of friends out. And
Yeah.
that was how we started the tour.
pretty smart.
Aspect. It actually worked out pretty well. I mean, granted, we put out very college centric songs with I Hate Alabama, Orange and White,
Yeah.
a song called College Town. So we lined it up, you know.
Yeah.
But that was super, super fun.
Was that like kind of, I don't know, odd to be kind of working while all your friends are basically in school? Like just not even like going to play the shows, but just, I mean, generally speaking.
College wise?
Yeah. Like, did you ever like go like, man, I wish I would have gone, or are you pretty happy with that?
No, I'm very grateful for the journey, and I definitely got my college experience a little bit without the classes. Just going up to see them, and it was still, you know, I signed at 19, didn't put out songs till 21, so there was still that time where I would go visit to see them and everything. But you know, even it was weirder in high school, where I was still full time in high school, but I would just leave full time's a stretch, but I would leave at noon or go write songs at noon, and then come back and, you know, play in the baseball game, and and, you know, people always ask like, oh, like, you know, you must have been so cool. Like, and I was like, no one cared. Like, it's Nashville. Like, no one's, you know, everybody knows songwriters. But they were definitely jealous when I would skip out on math class.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, that's the dream, dude. I would have given anything. I begged my parents to like let me drop out of like even high school. I was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah,
I just want to write songs.
I always just like, I kind of wanted to be a high school dropout just to be able to say it. Yeah. But my mom was like, you just got to get a diploma. At my graduation, my best friend gave the speech, and he said, one of his lines was, well, we all made it, even Connor, who didn't even come to school this year. So it was, you know, 50-50.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So yeah, I was going to ask you, I mean, there's a lot of ways we could go, but you've kind of already had like a couple interesting career moments. And like the first one that I remember, obviously I was like aware of you and what you're doing, but I just remember when like I Hate Alabama went like mega viral on, I guess that was TikTok, right?
Yeah, it was.
How long had that song been out?
It went viral before it came out.
Oh, okay.
So that song, Hunter Phelps wrote it, which Hunter was my connection to the song.
Gotcha.
But it was Hunter, Lee Starr, Drew Green, and I'm sorry to forget one.
Yeah.
But they had written the song, Drew sang the vocal, and I think Hunter sent it to Zach, and was, you know, probably for Dustin or Cole or somebody.
Yeah.
Because Zach was producing them, and Zach sent it to me, and I'll never forget the exact text was, this song's either incredible or terrible, I can't tell. Because the demo was like bare bones.
Sure.
You know, the demo was not there to impress. It was just there to, you know,
serve the song.
Hear the song. You know, it was like a garage band demo. But I remember playing it and just being intrigued, but not like anything crazy. But then I just kept playing it. I didn't even have songs out at the time, I don't think.
Yeah.
Maybe learned from it in Tennessee. My first two were out at the time. And I just remember kept playing it. And then I was in the truck with my buddies, and I was like, hey, y'all check this song I just got sent out. And I played it for them, and they were like, when the hook hit at the end, they all were like, woo! Like just freaking out, you know? And I was like, there's something here. But also I was like, I don't think I could get my record label to let me hate a state yet. You know, like I don't think that pitch would go well. And they had heard it, and they, you know, but they didn't really think anything of it. In the same way, I honestly was just like, this is cool. Yeah. But Zach was the one that was like, this song's different. This song's special. And as you know, for a new artist, you have to have songs that whether people love it or hate it, they ask, who's singing that? Who is this?
Yeah, I think that thing that you're describing is like, there's a lot of we do a lot of work to like make something that is like maybe for everybody,
Yeah,
you know, like
100%.
palatable. But sometimes the best thing that you can do is make something that is like very polarizing.
I've said this from the start. The more specific you get, the
Yeah.
more relatable it is as a songwriter.
Totally.
I mean, I remember putting that song out, and I'll finish the story, but I put that song out, and I was like, I mean, nobody outside of Tennessee is going to care about this. Or maybe they care in Auburn, but like Tennessee and Auburn and Georgia, like that's the whole of this song. I was in Sweden earlier this year, and we're playing, this writers round style, and it was me and Carlos Scott Collins and Lauren Watkins, and we had one song left, and just you hear a guy yell out from the car, "Hey, Alabama!" And Lauren leans over and she's like, "Did he just say I hate Obama?" I was like, no, he wants to hear I hate Alabama. So I played Alabama, but I've just always remember that story because I'm like, dude, how in the world a song about SEC football and about Tennessee football are people in Sweden who can barely speak English so connected to a song? Like it's just the power of emotion and like a melody and a perfectly written lyric and hook. But either way, we didn't really kind of have plans to put it out. But
did you have some version of it where you would like put your vocal on it?
So I put my vocal on it, and then Zach was just like, "Hey, let's just have your band come over and just cut it in my house."
Yeah.
So there was never a session on that.
Low
thing.
stakes.
Yeah, we just never cut it. And we're like, let's just put it on Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah.
Because this song doesn't make sense in January, and it was August.
Yeah.
So we're like, if we're gonna do anything with this song, which we think we should, it's got to be fast.
Yeah.
Which record labels don't, run on the word fast.
Sure.
And so we were like, let's just cut it underground. Don't tell anybody. And my brother is my videographer. We'll have him shoot a video, and we'll just put it on YouTube and just let people have it. Well, we put it on Instagram and YouTube, and it overnight it was 10 times bigger than anything we had done. And I got a text from Scott that night that said, "We're gonna put out this song next Friday."
Wow. And
so we had to get it mastered, recorded, album cover, final vocal, like everything in 7 days, and then get it in the system.
Yeah.
And the song like had gone semi-viral, but that Friday we put it out the next day, and Alabama hadn't lost for 2 years in football. The day after they lost to an unranked Texas A&M. And I'll never forget, man, I was playing a show in Columbus, Ohio at a bar called Flanagan's, and there was nobody, like 8 people legitimately. But in the bar was the TV of this Alabama Texas A&M game.
Yeah.
And after the show, I'm watching with my guitar player, Micah Carpenter.
Yeah.
And Texas A&M goes to kick a field goal to win the game. And I look at him, I go, dude, I don't know, but I think if he makes this field goal, it could change my life. And overnight, dude, the song just went crazy. And it was just a very, very God moment of just the timing of everything.
Yeah.
But that was definitely the start, because even to this day, a lot of people know me as the I Hate Alabama guy.
Yeah.
Which I kind of love, because
Dude.
it gives something you to be attached to.
Yeah, I mean, and it's such a it's a great song, and I love when I don't know, sometimes like a song finds its moment and it's like been out for 15 years, so that's insane and very cool that it happened
It did, yeah.
like the next day basically,
It's pretty wild, man. It's just such it's the 4th song I ever put out.
Yeah.
And that song still, man, just it kind of just has its own moment every year.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter where we're at. People are singing the words. Go down to Tuscaloosa. They love it more than anybody. It's just the song has been, I can't imagine my life or career without that song.
Yeah. That's awesome. Gosh, what else was I looking up on? You had, so I guess you've got 2 gold records now.
Yeah, crazy.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is wild.
What was the first one?
Take It Slow.
Okay.
So that was the 3rd song we ever put out. That song, and that was just kind of like one of those slow grinders. Never had some crazy moment, but I looked up, 6 months after it came out, and it just got more streams every day.
Yeah.
And then it was getting 200 a day, and 200,000 a day, and then Next thing I know, they were like, "Hey, you have a gold record." I was like, "That's wild." You
Yeah.
know, I didn't know how you get one of those, but that's really cool. And then Creek Will Rise, which, you know, was first top 10 on country radio.
Yeah.
That one went gold recently. And
That's such a great song.
thanks, man.
Yeah.
Really proud of that one as a writer. I got to owe a lot of credit to Chase McGill on that song.
Yeah.
He's the one that really he wrote that whole bridge, which makes the whole song.
Yeah.
I was on stage because we were writing the song. I had the idea. We were writing the song, me, Parker, Wellings, and Chase LaCourt, or Chris LaCourt and Chase. And all we had left was the bridge, but I had to go sing Beer Can't Fix with Thomas on stage. I was like, "Hey, y'all finish up. I'll be back in 10 minutes. And I came back and Chase had that bridge and it made the song.
Yeah.
And so that song was the first time I'd ever done. It was a whole new sound for me.
Yeah.
And it kind of paved the way for kind of what the sound would be a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you started so young. It's like, you're always trying to find like the new, like just, you can't do the same thing exactly the same forever, right? You always got to be like evolving and
especially in today's today's industry, like you're kind of evolving as a new artist in public.
Yeah.
You know, like how different everything is for me now as a writer versus when I started. And I always tell, artists, because I was the same way where I was so eager to get going and put out that first song. But the best thing that ever happened to me was when COVID came, it pushed everything back 2 years. Yeah. And so I had 2 more years to develop. So by the time I started, I was so much more prepared. And even now, I feel like I could have been more prepared.
Sure.
But like you can't ever restart.
Right. Once it starts, like the clock kind of starts to tick, right?
100% starts to tick, which is a weird thing. But also, I saw a graphic from the Grammys that the average for the new artist of the year Grammys, you see this graphic, like the average time since first release is like 7 to 8 years.
Yeah, I think like the average was like 8.6 or something,
which is crazy.
Yeah,
because you got, Sabrina Carpenter leads the way. It's her 5th record that she just put out that she's finally having a moment.
Right.
And I think that this industry will quickly let you forget that if you if you aren't vigilant. Just go, hey, run your race. Don't look around. Just write your songs and run your race.
Yeah, you got to. I think that's the lesson that I've had to learn over and over again. It's especially like the younger I was too. It's so easy to look around, and I'm hanging out in the writer room or whatever with like younger artists all the time, and they're all like, "Oh, I got to do it tomorrow."
100%.
And it's like, okay, like work hard, but it might take a little time.
Yeah, it might take 10 years.
Yeah, and that's fine.
I was talking to an artist about this last week. Because same emotion, and everybody feels it. But I was like, hey, like Nate Smith, new artist of the year, he's 37.
Yeah.
Jelly Roll the year before, he's 39.
Yeah.
Like it just takes time. And
absolutely.
To be great at anything, it does take time. And so, I feel like I'm very much just in the process of figuring it out every day and nowhere close to where I'll be one day or, the level of songwriter I want to be one day or knowing what the sound is or who I am as an artist yet. But I've been lucky enough to get to do that with people at every step that have believed in it and shown up to the shows. And I think every record we've put out has evolved into a different thing. And I'm just trying to be kind of trying to respect the art in that way as a songwriter. Just respect whatever is I feel in me. Like just write those songs, believe in them, put them out, let the fans have them, and see what happens next.
Yeah, and then on to the next one.
Because how long have you been in town?
I moved to town in what year was it? 2016.
Okay. And then you got a record deal when?
It was 2018. But then we didn't, like nothing started coming out until like the fall of 19.
Yep.
Right. And then, like COVID and all that stuff, which was pretty crazy. But like even now, like I'm like, oh, I know so much more now than I
100%
than I did 8 years ago. Like it's not even close.
Yeah, it's not even the same ballpark.
Yeah.
So if you started in 19, COVID would have hit right after.
It was like I remember my song Hung Up on You got on the US Spotify viral chart. Like it was like April 3rd or 4th or something. So it was like
of 2020.
Yeah, so like this moment was happening, and it was tough because we couldn't
do anything.
We couldn't do anything, and they were like, "Well, this is going to be the first radio single, but like we don't know how to do it. You know, like we can't do a radio
can't
tour.
Do a radio tour.
And
what are you going to zoom in with PDs?
Yeah, which is what we did, and like you know,
can't
just
connect with people.
By the time we were able to do it, you know, it was just kind of the moment had passed, and like, dude, it was hard.
100%.
It was really devastating. You know, it's like, you know how hard it is to like get a moment.
Oh my gosh.
So you get a moment, and then you feel like it kind of got like taken from you. Mm-hmm. But of course, like of all the bad stuff that happened during that time, like a bunch of people like lost their lives and stuff. So like in hindsight, like
I totally agree with that, but also like it doesn't discredit that emotion.
Yeah.
Of just feeling like, you know, this moment happens, you feel like you can't capitalize it on any way. And then the hardest thing ever to do is to create momentum in this town.
Yeah.
And it's like the moment that momentum feels like it's there, it's like you feel stuck in the mud.
Yeah.
That's super. I mean, what's your perspective looking back on that
Well,
now?
I look back at a couple things. I think one of the things that I really am kind of like oddly grateful for. So I believe that like whenever something that you don't like, or let's just for lack of a better term, whenever something bad happens to you, there's always like another side of the coin, which is something good. And at the time on that one, it took a really long time to like figure out
the other side,
what the good was. But at this point, like I'm really grateful, because I think had that song done what I had hoped it would do, I would have been kind of in that lane, making those like type of songs. And I probably would have been like, that would have forced my hand to like keep running down that lane. And I'm not sure that I felt like totally connected to it. And so like, I know, I guess I just believe like there's a bigger opportunity coming that I like can't see yet, you know? And and the other thing is I've lived through, and like I had another, after I got off the label, I had like a really viral TikTok thing with a song called That's Why.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that song also blew up, and it was like same thing. Like the moment was kind of hard to capture, because like I had literally gotten off of Warner like 3 weeks before. So it was sort of like, well, what do we do?
Did you own the song though?
I did,
Praise
which
God.
was very nice.
Yeah.
And that's actually like allowed me to do stuff like this.
Yeah.
Like invest in making a podcast and like all this other music that I've gotten to make. And you know, I've been working on a record for a couple of years now that I'm just, you know, I'm excited about it, and I feel like as best as I can articulate who I am, it's like got all that stuff in it. You know, I'm more of like when I started in Texas, it was much more like kind of like Tom Petty guitars, like I guess you'd call it like roots, but I don't know what the name is.
Sure.
But you know, we don't get to choose, man.
Yeah.
I just feel like life has many opportunities, and like I know, having lived through a couple, it's almost kind of comforting in a way, because it's like, cool, I'm just going to keep doing my thing. Like there will be more. Yeah. There will be more moments.
Yeah, there's always those waves. And I think as an artist, I feel it all the time, man. There's so many ways I could paint revisionist history. And go, oh, I should have done this. At this time I should have.
I'm sure you got things that like didn't work out exactly the way you wanted it to.
Yeah, I mean, we've done 4 radio singles, and only one's worked. Yeah, and that sucks.
How did you like? What did it feel like the first time one didn't work?
Well, I just think in kind of the innocence of, and probably cockiness of, you know, youth, and you know, your first single and everything, you know, was leading up to like my whole dream was to get played on country radio. Yeah, you know, that's everything for me, because, you know, at the beginning, like country radio is, you know, is the dream, but country radio has evolved so much. Now it's my dream, because my whole thing goes back to I care about songwriters.
Yeah.
I want to be an artist that is the champion for songwriters in Nashville. And what that means is being an artist that gets played on country radio in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
At this current
way that
at the current industry in my current record deal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, I do believe the industry is going to evolve in a lot of ways to where artists are able to share master points and all that. And I think that's the next phase and something that I want to, you know, help champion as an artist. And I think there's a lot of other artists talking about that too.
Yeah.
But either way, so like we send the first song I ever put out to radio and called Learn From It. And we just did radio tour, like full on 4 months, every day, different city, 3, you know, breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Were you like taking like 5 a.m. flights and 4-hour drives?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, like brutal.
Yeah.
But it was really exciting at the time because I was like, dude, I'm going to freaking
this is
workhorse this way to the top, baby.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got to have perspective, like how many people get that opportunity. You know what I mean? And so I was super confident. But then like that song but then Bama came out and it was like, this is the song.
Yeah. Did it sort of like eclipse what was happening with the other song?
I mean, Bama, then Take It Slow came out and it was like, this is the song. Like this song's streaming incredible. Like the fans are reacting.
Yeah.
And then Bama came out and it was like, this is the song. But then we're 2 months into pushing your first single at radio with Learn From It.
Right.
And it's like, you can't just flip singles as a new artist like that.
Yeah.
And that's where you talk about revisionist history. Like, dude, if we had just waited 3 months and Bama goes and dies at 15, like that song would have done 10 times more and whatever, but it is what it is, you know.
Yeah,
it all plays out the way it's supposed to.
Sure.
But I definitely, and the other thing about Learn From It that was really big for me was it was a 2-way between me and Daniel.
Oh yeah.
And it was going to be, if it worked, it was going to be Daniel's first hit. And we were going to get through that together and like have that moment. I cared so much about that.
Yeah.
And so, man, I worked that thing as hard as I could and it just didn't react. And it didn't react for, you know, it wasn't the right song. It's, you know, looking back on it now. And so that one was crushing. And then after that, but then it was like, hey, Take It Slow is crushing. We've been at this song for a year. It got to 27. Like, let's just switch. Let's do Take It Slow. And then that song died at 50.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, dang. I was like, okay, this next one really matters. And that was where Creek came into the picture, and Creek felt like the one. 100%. I mean, it was just like, it was like whatever we send next has to be the thing.
Yeah.
It has to be the one. It has to break through. You only get so many, you know, swings of the bat.
Right.
Thankfully, I've had a record label that has believed in me and in the growth of things and kept sending songs to radio.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the, you know, like we're all looking around at what labels are doing what, and I think like that's a huge thing to their credit is that
massive.
They always
Massive.
like they get stuff done at radio, but they also like stick with artists in a way that other labels sometimes don't.
Well, it was weird too because, and I fully agree, a ton of credit to them for that, but like it was weird because no success at radio, couldn't get anything going there, but shows were selling out and streams were happening and fans were forming. And so it was this weird juxtaposition between success and failure at the same time. Right. And the frustration of that a little bit. Yeah. Because I was like, man, if we could just get this one piece to work, like it's ready, you know, everything else is ready to happen. But then when Creek came out, I felt really confident and it was, you know, we put everything behind it because I was just like, listen, I don't, you know, I don't know what a radio hit sounds like, you know, nobody does. Yeah. But I got a strong feeling about this. Like it has all the things you'd want in a radio song, up tempo, storytelling, lyric. It shout outs. The highlight of the song is it giving a shout out to radio. Like, you know, it has all the checked boxes and fans were reacting. It was, you know, it was blowing up at the live show. And so that song ended up getting to number 9, which even that was a little disappointing. You know what I mean? Because
I could understand.
You know
that
what I mean? It's
sure.
like, dude, we're so.
You want to ring the bell?
Yeah, you want to ring the bell. You want, you know, it's a big difference, especially as a new artist. I think. Sure. But then still massive deal. Super grateful, and then we sent Roulette on the Heart to radio, which was another song. I was just really proud of that as a songwriter, but that song, I don't even think it broke top 50. Yeah. And so that, you know, the radio story's been its whole thing, but but I've learned a ton through it, and I'm super grateful the first song didn't go number one because I wasn't ready. I was, too cocky, and I wasn't ready to, be able to learn. And you learn so much as an artist and on the road of all the things from, who to have with you on the road and what that looks like and how to balance road and writing and all these things. And so for me, I think having the early success, but also having the early failures along the way was a really good thing for me to humble me along the way and give me just perspective of what type of person I want to be as an artist, which I think is a really big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, there's a couple things that you touched on there that a lot of like artists starting out don't think about. And the first one is that you really are, as an artist, you're running a business.
100%.
So you have to have the right people with you on the road. You got to have people with you on the road that like don't drain you.
Yeah.
Like just energy wise.
Yeah.
It's like the hang is important, and everybody's got to be a team player.
Man, who you have around you in this town as a whole.
Yeah. It's really important. And then the other thing that you said that I thought was really wise and interesting is like your failures, like whatever, nobody likes that word, but it's like when things don't work out, you learn.
100%.
You learn so much, and you learn a lot more when it doesn't go the way you wanted it to, because it hurts.
Yeah. You learn way more through failure than success.
Yeah. And like, it's okay. I think sometimes it's easy to go like, well, this has to work. I have to succeed. And it's like, but you don't get to choose.
Yeah. I feel like, failures grow you, successes expose you.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so I think throughout the journey for me, it's just, even like, it's funny, even as I talk about the radio singles, like with every disappointment, they hurt way less. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You do you kind of get used to that.
Yeah. I think in this town, it is so important to define your own success.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think you have to, because at every level, it doesn't matter if you're a brand new artist, just signed a record deal where I'm at, or, have 3 number ones, or you're Morgan Wallen.
Yeah.
Like at every level, you can look to someone else and compare that.
Yeah.
And so if you're not defining your own success of what does success actually look like for me in my life outside of music, but also inside of music as, as a job. And it's like, man, I've been able to, make a living, doing something I absolutely love, writing songs and performing. I've been able to build fan base and connection and impact people with music. I've been able to be a part of the songwriting community, which was my biggest dream of all time.
Yeah.
I've been able to become friends with the guys I looked up to. I've been able to play shows. But at the end of the day, it's just like, man, I've got a really amazing community around me, and I get to pay the bills, being a musician, and that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, dude. That's amazing. That's a great perspective. If you could look in your crystal ball, like 5 years from now, what would like define, I don't know, what are your goals? Like what would make you feel successful?
It's a good question. And one I'll probably have to, sit with for the next week. But, I think for me, as an artist and as a creative in general, like there is no separating work and life.
Yeah.
Like you can't turn it off. I've learned that, you can't just go home and not be thinking about if that bridge was right or how many tickets you're going to sell this weekend. Like it's all encompassing. And so I think a lot of my goals would center around, the person I want to be, the husband I want to be now for my wife, and the friend I want to be. Like so many of my decisions I've in introspective, I've kind of realized so many of the decisions I've made as a person over the last few years has been tied to like those best friends I had in high school that are still my best friends today, like that my best friends when they were off in college and all that. It's like I never wanted to be someone that they would come home to and not recognize.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
So I think in a lot of ways that's success to me is that those are still my best friends, and those, like my best friend in the world, he's coming on the road with me this weekend because we're going up to Michigan. We're going to go golf. Like that stuff gives me a lot of joy. But I go back to, as an artist, if I could truly be a champion for songwriters in this town, in the next 5 years as somebody who's been given a platform and a voice in this next class of country artists.
Yeah.
Cause I respect country music, like with everything. Like, I grew up with like the yearly pass to the Country Music Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? Where you could just go in at any time.
You're in it.
Yeah. Like it's just, I respect the genre. I respect the ecosystem of songwriters. And so I want to be a leading voice in that. Whatever that looks like, talking about giving points to masters.
So since I've been independent, like I've done that. I've given, like, I guess you'd call it like master participation to the writers and to the production as well. And like, it is totally possible.
100%.
It hasn't, like, I guess maybe I've made less money, but like,
but you haven't because
exactly.
Yeah.
This is what I try and tell other independent artists, because I know, like, when you're signed artists, like, it's not totally up to them how the stuff is split out or whatever. But like, I have been at coffees or a drink with like other independent artists, and I'm like, you don't understand. If you do this, like, yes, you are taking off you're taking away some of your money now, but you're investing in your community. You're going to get better songs.
Yeah, you're going to get better songwriters that want to write with you.
Exactly.
And then everything elevates. And even as a artist signed to a record deal, and granted, I'm in my first record deal, like, there's no wiggle room here.
Sure.
But, hopefully I get to sign a second record deal. And at that point, when you have leverage and you get to, paint more, it's like, hey, if you were an artist with the record deal, same independent, but with a record deal, it's like, if you give points to your masters, sure, you're cutting the short-term gain, but at the end of the day, you're not making your money off of your masters or whatever. You can, and it's great money.
Yeah.
But you're making money on your live show.
Right.
You're making money if you can sell out an arena every night and pay the guys around you. That goes straight into your pocket. And so at the end of the day, if you're an artist that's giving master points, you're going to have competitive advantage
absolutely
on every outside song.
Yeah.
Because if, that song could go to you or this other artist, but they know they're going to get points, they're going to give it to you. And so that's where it's like, you got to have that bigger perspective.
Right. Yeah. It's like give a little now.
But also the thing about Nashville, and the reason radio is still the most important thing in this town, is because the ecosystem of this town is about songwriters.
Yeah, it's built around songwriters, and it's built around radio success.
Well, it's built around radio success because that's the only way songwriters get paid.
Right.
And so if you are a radio artist, the whole town props you up. The whole town elevates you because, it's built around the publishing companies. It's built around the mom and pop publishing companies or even, the Warners and Sonys. And so that's the lifeblood of this town. And so I think as a whole, it's like, not only for just the moral factor of, loving your neighbor and helping everybody out, but also just like on a business sense, you're not leaving anything on the table. You're actually increasing everything by paying that respect.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And, I don't know. No, like I kind of have talked about it less because I'm like, well, I don't want to be annoying, but like, I really do care about it.
100%.
And I really strongly believe that like it is. Like I was talking to my buddy Zach Aubend about it, because he participates in one of my biggest songs that I own independently, and I called. It was probably like 6 months ago. I was like, "Does this even matter to you?"
Yeah.
I'm seriously asking. He's like, "Dude, it does. It matters, but also like it's great that you're doing it." But I think everybody is also just hopeful that, as a whole, the songwriting community and the labels and all this stuff we can find a way to make this make sense, because it kind of feels like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole right now.
Well, the thing is, the industry evolved faster than the songwriters could.
Yeah.
Or the laws for songwriters could.
Yeah.
And I talked to Bart Herbison at NSAI about this a lot. And it's like, he's like, hey, we've done what we can do, with Congress and with laws. Like we've fought those battles and we've gotten small victories.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not that Spotify and Apple are not paying enough.
Right.
They're paying for the songs.
Yeah.
They're just going in the wrong pockets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that every industry has to evolve, and I think that the industry will evolve to a place where it gets back into the songwriter's pockets in the right way.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to take artists like yourself, like other independent artists, and like artists that are signing record deals and new record deals and renegotiating record deals. They're able to put this in because, as you know, like, hey, if you're a producer on a song, you get your check and then you get your points.
Yeah.
There's no reason that the songwriter should not get their points.
Right. We'll just want to feel like we're participating in the success, because that's the other thing. Like, I got songs people have participation in and they just like didn't do that much.
Sure.
And that's okay.
Sure.
But we all got to try.
Yeah.
You know? And like I think that's the biggest thing. It's like incentive alignment is like the key to successful life and like successful business.
100%.
Making sure all the parties involved are like getting the right feedback loops.
I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a win, not if. But I do think it's just going to take people talking about it, championing that, you know, having these conversations to where people see that it's an option. Like, and I'm always just super excited and inspired when, you know, artists are doing that. And it just makes sense.
Yeah. It feels good.
Yeah, it does, man.
And like you said, it helps. It's like, it helps me too.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just like I get to feel good. It's like, no, I get better songs.
But also, you know, the guys you're writing songs with are not just co-workers, they're friends.
Yeah.
They're your buddies.
Yeah.
And it's like,
they got to eat too.
Yeah. It's like, dude, if I could, you know, if I can help Daniel pay for Austin's private school, that'd make me, that'd feel freaking awesome.
Yeah. Well, he's not gonna have any problems paying for private school.
No, he's
for a
fine
while.
now. But you know, I just always use him as an example because we, you know, I started writing with him in 2019, and
wow.
And we just really connected as humans, and he's been a big part of this. He's actually, we're gonna work a lot on this next record, which is fun. But I showed up at a buddy's house the other day, who I've been writing with for a long time, and he's had a couple number ones, but he had new FRA sign in his front yard where his middle school son was going to FRA, and I went in there. I was like, I freaking love that your son getting to go to FRA because it means you're having success.
Yeah,
like,
you're doing it.
That fires me up.
That's awesome, bro. So what is what you put a record out like October 4th or something, or an EP?
Yeah, we put out a little EP. We did. I had my
next
debut album January. Put out some deluxe songs, and then did this little record down in Texas with a guy, Dwight Baker, which was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Just kind of getting back to we wrote the songs in 2 days and just kind of put them out. It was really like creatively,
that's sick,
really fulfilling. But yeah, I mean, stepping into this next year, it's been it's really cool to kind of paint the picture for what this next year looks like, and a bunch of new music, and working on record 2, and just continuing to figure out what I have no idea.
You going
what
on the road? I'm sure.
Like. Yeah, I mean, we've been on the road. We still got 3 more weekends. We've been on the road for since June until December 7th, pretty much every weekend.
Wow.
So we're hitting it really hard, and we'll do the same thing next year.
That's awesome.
So we'll just be on the road and just writing songs. I'm excited to get some time to actually write for a record 2 and kind of dream into that a little bit. But yeah, man, just kind of keeping the train rolling.
Yeah, I love it, dude. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, man.
And that's it. That's the pod. See you later. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening. If you want to submit a question for one of our Q&A episodes, you can do so at tenuretowne.com. We would love it if you would join the Tenuretown community, which just means we'll send you updates via email about stuff we got going on. And of course, please rate and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Wherever you listen or watch this thing, we appreciate you so much. See you next week.